for an age of chaos ruled, corrupting the mortal realms as the minions of the dark gods ran rampant. Yet even as civilization was ground into ruin, a new hope was born. A new era began as the god king Sigmar opened up the heavens and sent forth his stormcast Eternals. They fought for order and for justice, and once more civilization blossomed. Across the realms, oppressed survivors rose to join the battle. The shock of Sigmar's storm was mighty, yet the corruptions of chaos were deeply rooted. The foe was too numerous and too powerful for the God King's storm hosts to vanquish alone, and so he sought out other deities, hoping to forge a great alliance of order, as there once was of old. From Shyish, the realm of death, the great necromancer Nagash gazed out from eye sockets long hollowed. Through many battles and hardship, the supreme lord of the undead had endured the age of chaos. In the beginning, Nagash had fought side by side with Sigmar, but the God King had betrayed him. Even now, Sigmar spoke of justice while withholding souls that were Nagash's rightful due as Lord of the Underworlds. Never again would Nagash bow before another. He would show them the meaning of true order. As his machinations drew to their conclusion, Nagash came close to achieving supremacy, but chaos once again thwarted his ultimate mastery. Overcome with cold fury at the desecration of his final ritual, the great necromancer sent forth his undead legions, raising a new spectral host to lead his assault. And the mortal realms trembled. Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are going to be talking about Nighthaunts, which are my personal aesthetic favorite from Age of Sigmar. I think their design is really inspired. In particular, certain units, and I'm hoping that their lore bears that out. That which haunts the night, an indomitable new malevolence has stirred an ancient terror. No longer content to hunt civilization's edges, phantasmal forces gather into spectral armies. This is no mere haunting, but a shock assault that seeks nothing less than to destroy life itself. A fell wind is rising. From the darkest pits of Shyish, the realm of death, comes a storm of ethereal figures. An eerie mist spreads before them, blotting out the sun. They muster upon corpse-strewn battlefields, or ancient burial grounds, a ghostly army of phantoms. They are the supernatural, the dead, the damned, the Nighthaunts. Sustained by a fathomless hatred for the living, these wraiths fight to send fresh souls screaming down into the darkened realms from whence the dead emerged, taking cruel pleasure in knowing the torments that await their victims below. And by the manner of their death shall ye know them. Malignant spirits. The Nighthaunts are the horrors that haunt the periphery, terrors that prowl beyond life's edge. They wait with the patience of the eternal, yet their hunger drives them with insatiable needs. To hunt, to harm, to destroy life, for that is all that is left to them. They come in many forms, but are all destined to forever stalk the mortal realms, and to drag the living to the same doom. The Nighthaunts have not only lost their lives, but also their physical bodies. While mortal flesh rots away, the spirit lives, taking on a new phantasmal aspect. Whatever blissful underworld rest or eternal peace that was promised to these souls has turned out to be naught but lies. Instead, Nighthaunts are fated with afterlives of damnation, stripped of any compassion they had before death. All warmth is eradicated, leaving behind only the negative. What remains of their spirit is bitter, hate-filled, and bound by necromancy, often in some cruelly ironic way linked to either their deaths or their deeds in life. They must forever haunt the mortal realms to seek out and punish those who dare to still live. Glowing with a fell light, the Nighthaunts are a bone-chilling sight. They appear nebulous and insubstantial, able to hover weightlessly in the air or pass through solid obstacles. A Nighthaunt can glide without pause, straight through a wall, as a man might stride unimpeded through light fog. Unless guided by supreme faith, enemy blades and arrows pass harmlessly through the Nighthaunts' incorporeal forms. Only those that can steel their minds and drive out their deepest fears can stand against such supernatural horrors. It takes unstinting courage to will a weapon to pierce a phantasm. In return, the chill blades of the Nighthaunts reap a deadly toll upon the living. Skeletal hands reach out, ignoring armor, flesh, and bone alike, to grasp at a foe's heart. The fear and confusion that emanates from each of the unholy geists robs enemies of their physical strength, just as it saps their conviction. Though almost impervious to physical harm, Nighthaunts carry with them their own hell. Some are cursed by the dark manner of their death. For instance, those who met their ends in chains might have hoped to escape their captivity in the afterlife, yet in the spiritual world are bound by more manacles than ever. Others find their deeds in life turned against them. A mortal who spent a lifetime healing and nurturing might find that, as a spirit, they can only wantonly destroy. Such morbid rewards fill the Nighthaunts with rage and hatred. The perpetrator of these eternal torments is none other than Nagash, god of the underworlds. The great necromancer, the supreme lord of the undead, and self-proclaimed ruler of Sheesh. Nagash finds the twisted irony he has inflicted to be naught but poetic justice. His vindictive nature, limitless spite, and unfathomable ego have created the most terrible of spirits, geists, and wraiths. A single Nighthaunt might terrorize a village, and a pair acting together could leave an entire fiefdom quaking in fear. When gathered en masse and united beneath a greater undead spirit, such an army can destroy an empire and become the stuff of dire legends. The Processions. Nighthaunt armies are known as Processions. Fear runs before them, as tangible as the unnatural mist that rises from the ground. The air grows chill, and then from out of nowhere they come, riding on the wind. They surge over the land like a phantasmal tide. Some of the wraithly host ride upon spectral steeds, their hooves never touching the earth, but leaving footprints of cold fire in the skies. Horrible lurching shapes hover, moving in disjointed fashion, but traveling terribly fast for all that. There are rank after rank of ethereal crook-backed things, cowled creatures brandishing tall glaives. Others come in chains, rattling and moaning. Ghastly apparitions leer from tattered hoods. Spectral scythes sweep forward, while mind-splitting howls and harrowing shrieks echo through the gloom. Many foes flee at the first sight of a Nighthaunt procession. Others hold their ground for a time, but it does not take long before senses sharpened by fear begin to make out sinuous shapes moving in the thickening fog. Panicking defenders leap at every new swirl, and they are right to. Clawed talons reach out, phantom riders appear out of the sinister vapors, and spirits materialize from unexpected quarters, drifting through trees or over untraversable moats. The Nighthaunt onslaught is not a merely physical assault, but a psychological one as well, and only the bravest dare to stand before them. Rising threat. Once, Nighthaunts were the stuff of myths and fables. Tales told of specific hauntings, such as the bloody-handed Baron that stalked the ruins of Forlorn Castle, or spine-chilling events like the return of the Shrill Sisters, who came back to massacre the village that burnt them as witches. Every region of the mortal realms could boast blood-curdling tales or Geist-frequented sites. In addition to these lone revenants, Nighthaunts could also be seen bound to the service of a necromancer or soul-blight vampire, but most stalked the lands of the living purely under their own malevolence. That was before cataclysmic events in Sheesh opened up a nightmare. Nighthaunts flooded the mortal realms, rising up unexpectedly to strike fear in the hearts of all mortal creatures. Seeing the effectiveness of these sudden shock attacks, Nagash organized a new wing of his legions. The Nighthaunts would be his outriders of horror, the first wave for his long-planned soul wars. To command this new vanguard of terror, Nagash appointed a new leader, Lady Olinder, Mortarch of Grief. With amazement, the guards of Griffin Tower watched one of their brethren stagger out of the forest. Opening the Shimfield portcullis, they raced out to aid the injured warrior, who by his armor and markings was part of the vanguard hunter retinue that had been on patrol to the north. His body plate was unrent, but his helm was missing, and his haggard face told a tale of agony and terror. Struggling against those who sought to hold him up, the Stormcast seemed not to recognize them at first. Then his wide eyes appeared to focus, and he struggled to say something, but for minutes no words came. "They are coming," he spoke at last, his face conveying pure horror. And then, his final message delivered, he could hold on no longer, and was gone. His body shifted to azure light, a beam that blinked up to the heavens, leaving no trace. "I have never seen a foe cause such fear in one of us," said Metallus. What could it be? The question stood unanswered. As one of the liberators returned to the gatehouse with many glances cast towards the black forest behind him. "Whatever is coming," said Liberator Prime Augustus, "they will find they can't get past us and the walls of Griffin Tower." As the enchanted portcullis shut behind them, a chill wind swept from the north, the air itself seeming to moan in protest. A mist rose impossibly fast, its unnatural green-tinged swirls seeming to hide ominous shapes. A horn of Azir sounded, and from the top tower came the staccato reports of the long-strike crossbows, opening fire. Even as the liberators peered out into the fog, the foe was upon them. Charging through the walls came cowled specters brandishing gleaming scythes. Grinning skeletal apparitions wreathed in balefire were the last things the Stormcast Eternals saw, before they vanished back to Sigmar to be remade anew. Soon, no defender stood between the Nighthaunts and the townships beyond the tower's walls. From out of the rising fog comes a deathly procession of Sheesh. They are the riders in the dark, the takers of souls, the Nighthaunts. By the time the wraiths emerge from the mist, it is too late. Too late for protective rhymes, too late for the sign of the hammer. All is macabre, all is death. Ask not for whom the Reaper comes. He comes for thee. The restless dead. There are many different types of undead, and there is much speculation amongst those learned in the arcane arts about such entities and their maker. As necromancy is a dark and often forbidden subject, few mortals know the true extent of its rituals, and it is often fatal to learn too much. Across the mortal realms, the dead do not rest easy. Unquiet spirits haunt and terrorize the living. Reanimated cadavers rise from their graves at the bidding of necromancers, and immortal soul-blight vampires plot nefarious schemes of conquest while draining mortal blood for sustenance. A dread figure casts a long shadow over all. Nagash, father of necromancy, god of the underworlds, and ruler supreme of all undead. Hatred of life. Nighthaunt spirits are many and varied, but all have one thing in common: a hatred of the living. Some, like the Cairn Wraiths, were as wicked in life as they are in death. All but their most vile traits have eroded away, their hate still clinging to them and driving them onwards. Others, like the Glaive Wraith Stalkers and Chain Rasps, are embittered by the curse of their afterlife, for now they are yoked to an eternity of torment, and their jealousy of the living is boundless. They are goaded to destroy all that still draws breath. Some are even mistakenly convinced that doing so will earn them a reprieve. Yet such is not the nature of Nagash. For a few spirits, like the dread scythe Herodans, the hatred is integral to their curse, for they cannot control themselves and must watch helplessly the horrors they are compelled to commit. Undeath. Those that dare to study the forbidden arts of death magic, curious wizards, wayward apprentices, and would-be necromancers, generally accept that there are three main ways to create undead. The first and most common of these is the enslavement of the deceased's remains, the necro-evocus. Zombies and skeletons, worm-eaten corpses and desiccated bones can be reinvigorated through necromantic incantations. There is no life or personality in such risen creatures, merely dark magic that binds their bodies to a will greater than their own. The second way in which undead are created is the necroprocratus, undead making more undead. The simplest version of this is the bite of a zombie, which can infect the stricken, so that upon their death they too rise up. There are several variations of necroprocratus, some involving organized ritual. The third method of creating undead is the most complex, the necromaledictus. This takes the form of a powerful eldritch curse cast upon a soul that has been recently separated from its physical body. These hexes can vary by region and culture throughout the mortal realms, but in all cases they consign a terrible fate upon the spirit. Instead of passing onwards into the underworlds, the afflicted spirit will instead remain on the mortal plane, doomed to haunt for all eternity. The scholars of the Collegiate Arcane widely believe that all necromantic magic originated from Nagash and the mortific spells he devised. However, there are instances of natural phenomena, such as drifting pockets of amethyst magic, or particularly rich veins of grave sand, leading to the creation of Nighthaunts as well. Souls become so twisted by death magic that they take ominous new forms, becoming ghostly killers intent on destroying the living. There are many varieties of Nighthaunt, with hundreds of different maledictions creating distinct, phantasmal beings, some of which are believed to be unique in nature. The great majority of Nighthaunts, however, fall into one of about a dozen broad categories. Specific types of wraiths, such as the spiritually imprisoned chain rasp hordes, the cursed healers known as the dread scythe Herodans, or the mass grave amalgamations known as spirit hosts. There is a twisted and dramatic irony to the fates of those souls cursed to become Nighthaunts. One who lost their family and their own life to base betrayal might be cursed to an afterlife where they unflinchingly serve the killer that took everything from them. A criminal bound in chains that came too long for his life to end so that he might know freedom, may find his spirit self still weighed down with stocks and manacles forevermore. It is Nagash that is behind these cruelties. He is unforgiving to a degree mortal kind cannot fathom. However, he does not mete out punishments out of the boredom of eternity, nor does he play with souls for his own amusement, for such concepts are anathema to the great necromancer. To Nagash's cold yet orderly mind, the macabre penances to which the Nighthaunts are subjected are but justice, for there is not a single mote of mercy within his being. To the god of death, mortals that attempt to escape fate or thwart his designs deserve the very harshest of dooms. Over the centuries, Nagash has invented many different curses to punish deserving souls that enter the underworlds. Some of these powerful hexes linger in perpetuity, lurking in the underworlds like spiders, waiting for similarly marked souls so that they might latch onto them as well. The Thorny Briar. Thorny Briar is a plant commonly associated with undead, and with the Nighthaunts in particular. Its barbs represent the spirit's eternal pain and the cruelty of their existence, whilst the grave roses that sometimes appear on its stems further denote death, tragedy, and bleakness. The vine's creepers endlessly curl into knots, allegorical of the inescapable plight of these revenant spirits, and the hopelessness of their fate. For although the necromantic forces holding Nighthaunts together can be broken by sorcery, or violence driven by sufficient willpower, over time their shattered essence reforms in the underworlds of Shyish, and they return to their morbid unlife. There are few weapons or spells in the mortal realms powerful enough to destroy a Nighthaunt once and for all. And that is where we're going to end this video for today. I'm sorry it's a little bit shorter, but Nighthaunts seem really interesting. They're a little dark for me. I kind of figured they were just, malevolent spirits, but the whole torture thing is a little weird. Although that doesn't change the fact that I think their aesthetic is incredible. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider liking it or subscribing to the channel. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.